Hey guys, welcome back to the It's All Just Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Tim Warren. Today we're going to be talking about budgets and what to do in potentially tough economies. So Andrew, thanks for coming back on the show. I know we got great feedback about the last one. Really appreciate you coming on and talking to us again.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you've been in the marketing world for 10 plus years, and you've seen a bunch of different things. You've probably been through different economic cycles. One of the things that we wanted to talk about on the podcast today, and it's a question out there, is because banks are failing.
Yeah.
Is there a recession coming? This has been asked for a while. Is there a correction coming? And I would say we've seen from, we have a lot of clients across the nation, and we've seen just a general tightness of budgets.
Yeah.
Right now, whether that's recession or not, I do think it's debatable whether we're in a recession. But I want to talk about right now, if budgets are not infinite and they're not overflowing. And a lot of executive leaders are finding themselves with a leadership team coming to them and saying, hey, the budget's either flat or it's shrinking.
Sure.
Right? How do marketing leaders who are watching this make the right decision, what to keep, what to cut, what to keep doing, what to stop doing?
Right. Okay. So my answer to that and what we tell our customers is you should be investing where you can where you can tie an attribution to it, where you can attribute the dollars. The reason is because if you're going to be held accountable to every dollar, you should be able to tell them what's working and what isn't working. So if you're buying mediums or solutions that you can't attribute to, but your budget is the same or smaller, you're putting yourself in a bad position to go to your boss and say, well, I want to keep doing this. I have no idea how it's working, and I know you just gave me less money, and I know you're going to give me less money next month, but I still want to do it, but I don't know. If you listen to yourself, you say that doesn't sound really good going to your boss
not very
saying,
compelling.
Yeah, keep giving me the little bit of money you want to give me. It's less than last year, and I have no idea how it's working. That's probably a bad idea. So what can we do as an agency, and what can an advertiser do to make investments where they can tie an attribution?
Right.
Whether that be using a software like we do, we use a software called Attribution App, which allows you, it's a linear attribution model, which allows you to tie everything that you're doing back to an attribution, so you can properly give credit to the right channel.
Right.
And so you can know in real time what's working and what isn't working across anything that you want to do. So we recommend that, and then we recommend really looking at low funnel, where you can drive a result immediately. Paid social, paid search. What can you really do to drive traffic and get convertible traffic for the exact desired audience that you want? But really, Tim, to me, the answer is you need to be thinking about channels where you can drive an attribution and show a return using data, especially when budgets are cut or budgets are tighter. You have to use data now more than ever. And so attribution allows you to do that and allows you to tell a story. So that's really what we're telling customers and what we're trying to help customers with our partner in Attribution App.
And we obviously, one of the benefits of Helium Attribution partnering is that we have basically an enterprise discount.
We do, yeah. So if
customers use us, we can get it for them at a cheaper rate than if they were to just go direct.
Yeah, so our relationship with them allows an advertiser to get all the bells and whistles of Attribution App without the price that they would normally pay if they just went direct.
Right.
By working with us, not only do you get our services, but then you get access to the attribution apps. And also, too, we're building it correctly so that when everything goes live, it's all organized right within Attribution App, and it's all getting the right amount of credit that it should.
And can customers actually just use us for Attribution App?
Yes, they can.
They can?
They can.
Okay.
So if they have all 5 channels and they just want to do Attribution App, we can do that. And we can just set it all up for them, and then we can tell them what's working and what isn't working.
No, that's great. So back to the original piece, your recommendation is if budgets are going to be flat or cut, you're recommending the first thing you should spend money on is attribution software.
Correct.
To really actually understand what is happening with your dollars, which is interesting because I feel like that's counterintuitive for some marketers. Who might say, look, I have less budget, which means I have less to spend on paid, I have less to spend on agencies, working, not working media. I was going to add Attribution App as an additional thing to my budget, but my
Yeah.
budget got cut, so now I can't.
No, I'm
And
saying
and you're
do
saying
that.
you're thinking about it all wrong.
Yeah.
You actually shouldn't spend $1 on any of these other ones until you have attribution
Correct.
to be able to tell you what you're actually getting for the money you're spending. Is that right?
That's absolutely right, because the microscope, right? Everybody's now under a microscope. So if I'm under a microscope, if
Right.
I'm in their shoes and my budget gets cut and I'm getting asked every week, how's it working? I would buy a software or get connected with a software that told me how it's working, so that I at least could walk into my boss's office and say, this much I do know.
Right.
These 3 things are driving this much revenue and this
Right.
much traffic.
Right.
That's a lot better than, well, I saved money on attribution, so that's good, but I don't know what's working.
Right.
So yes, I think spending money there and then taking time to think about which channels to use. So if your budget's decreased and you're going to invest in an attribution software, well, that means that a channel probably has to go away. So I would, and what we tell our customers is stack rank. So the one that's driving the least goes, attribution comes in its place,
Yep.
and then you're only spending on the things that drove the most traffic. If there's 5, these 4 are the best. The 5th one goes, you buy the attribution software, and you're driving against the ones that are driving the best results anyway.
That's smart.
Something has to go in a time like that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be the thing that's telling you what's working. It should be the thing that's driving you the least amount of leads.
Yeah. 100%.
So.
And if you're not tracking what's driving the most amount of leads, then your marketing results are probably all over the board anyway.
Yeah, and you're making guesses, and if your budget is tighter, you might as well take as much guess out of it as you can. And what could come from that is the 3rd channel was the best channel. Okay, great. Now the other 2 channels get decreased.
Right.
You go in on the 3rd channel, and you look like an absolute genius. But you wouldn't have if you didn't invest in the software, or you didn't invest in a software that allows you to do that. Yeah. So yeah, we think about it a little differently.
So what about if budgets are tight or they're getting cut, what are your thoughts on high funnel, middle funnel, and bottom of funnel?
Yeah.
And what to pare back on? Because obviously there's benefits to each part of the funnel.
Yeah.
Right? You need to fill the funnel. You can't only do the lowest, you can't only do bottom of funnel, because then you don't have
Right.
top of funnel, right? But what are your thoughts in terms of like what costs the most money and what is the best to cut when times get tight?
To me, it's you got to cut from the top down. I think you cut the top funnel. I think you go more in on low funnel,
Okay.
because I think you have to maximize the conversions, and you have to maximize the people who are interested in your brand in a recession. If there's a recession and somebody is still interested in buying from you,
Yeah.
you have to take advantage of that.
You have to, yeah.
So to me, it's let's go low funnel and win where the people are wanting to buy now, and then let's sacrifice a little of the high funnel where they're still shopping and they're not as convinced. But if they're converting or they're about to convert or they've done a conversion action on your website,
Right.
let's go get that person, because they're probably thinking, well, it's a recession, but I still need this thing.
Right.
So let's go get them to buy the thing from you before they buy it from somebody else, because they're only going to buy one thing,
Right.
or in that category, because it's a recession. They're not going to go buy 2 extra couches. They're going to buy 1, or they're not going to go buy, 3 of one thing. They're going to buy 1 of one thing, because money's tight is probably tight for the general consumer.
Right.
Hopefully, does that make sense?
No, it
Is
does.
yeah.
And so, when we think about like bottom of funnel, what would you put in the bottom of funnel channels versus top of funnel?
So
channels?
I would put in things that we know drive conversion. So I would put anything in search that's driving traffic.
So like organic search,
Organic search, paid search,
Okay.
paid social.
Would you put remarketing, retargeting in bottom of funnel or middle of funnel? Where
Middle
would you
funnel.
put that?
Middle funnel.
Middle. Okay.
If I'm getting I have to go to the website to get retargeted generally. So if we speak in generalities, so I would say they've already come to the website. They've already for a reason.
Right.
So
Right.
then retargeting is probably middle. I wouldn't call it high funnel. I would call high funnel things that this whole push versus pull model. So things that are push mechanisms like TV, like billboard, like radio, like newspaper or any print. Those are all push. I would consider those high funnel.
Yes.
Low funnel are pull. So I'm going to the search engines to pull information. I'm going to a website to pull information. I need a new heater. I need a new air conditioning unit. I need a new car. Whatever that is, I'm going because I need something. I'm pulling that information. That's why I go to that website. So that's would be my definition.
What do you think about programmatic,
Yeah.
and display ads? Do you think would those live in middle funnel? Are those high funnel as well? Would you say?
I think they're high funnel.
So in a recession or if a budget's tight, you would keep search, but would you pull back on programmatic?
Yes, I would.
Like paid display,
I would.
just because you think it's high funnel.
I do. Because I think it's more push than pull.
Okay.
So I wouldn't pull back on the retargeting because they're coming there for a reason. Stay in front of those people.
That's fair.
I would not pull back on paid search if you're doing it and you're seeing a return. Keep doing that. I wouldn't pull back on organic if it's driving results. Keep doing that. You've invested a lot of energy and time in
Right.
that. Keep doing it.
Yep.
Paid social, same deal. You're finding the exact audience. You've probably tested the channels so you know which social channel works.
Right.
You've probably dumped the other ones that don't work anyway. You've probably already done that. So stay with the one that works. And anything that's push, I wouldn't, consider as much of a necessity as I would those channels we just listed.
So what else? This has been great. What else should brands do in if budgets are tight or being cut? Excuse me. What else should clients do or companies do in that scenario? Are there other things they should look to change if marketing dollars were relatively abundant and now they're tight?
I mean, I think if they haven't invested time in the data and pushed their partners for data and results, not just results, but the data behind the results,
Yeah.
they need to be doing that. So now's the time to really understand what's happening, what's working, why, what changes were made, what data is it driving, what is being seen in the data that's driving the positive result. I would just be pushing for all the data because you got to understand every number in a recession because every number matters as to why we're going to keep a channel or dump a channel. So I would be pushing there heavily. And then I would also look at, how can we do things that are going to continue to drive the channels that are working? So if paid search or paid organic are working, how do we then think about, can we produce content at a really affordable level to keep driving that? That's something that a lot of brands can do now with all the, changes and new technologies that are coming. How can you create more content at scale in a recession?
One thing I want to riff off of that, Andrew, because one of our clients recently, so they spend about a couple million a month in paid, and yet organic. So when we took a look at this, and for them it was not as much budget driven as much more of they want to reduce their reliance on paid, and they want to just grow the company.
Right.
And so as our sales consultants and experts looked at the account, they realized you're probably about maximized on paid that you can go, because you're spending 15, 20 million a year on paid. But organically, they were very anemic, right? It was very, very anemic because of the spend, right? And it had been declining for a couple of years. And so as we dug in there, one of the first things we noticed, we said, let's go to analytics. Let's take a look. And so when we looked at analytics, what we noticed was, 100,000 visitors coming from paid, okay, and 50,000 conversions. But we looked at organic, we said, well, there's 33,000 coming from organic with like 30,000 conversions.
Yeah.
So we quickly realized, just looking at the math, we said, well, this is really interesting because, you spend a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent on organic that you do on paid, but yet it's a third of the traffic of paid, and it's like 3/5 of the conversions.
Yeah.
That's super interesting because then the opportunity there is we can pour gasoline on that.
Correct.
fire. Because there may not be more you can do in paid. Maybe for them, like there's optimizations, there's better tweaks or whatever. Maybe 10 or 15% like you could gain here, right? But it's not hundreds of percent.
Yeah.
But with organic, when we looked at that, it was like, holy crap, we could probably increase these results 700% in this one channel.
Yep.
Because it was just under resourced, right? But we wouldn't. That data is really important to go look at. Which is why it's so important for brands to have their conversion tracking turned on.
Correct.
And even the dollar value tracking conversions
Correct.
on there so that we can see the quality.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't have that data, we wouldn't be able to make that decision.
Right.
And we would just simply say, what drives your leads? Paid.
Yeah.
Keep spending paid.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Versus, but my budget's shrinking. What do I do?
Yeah.
Do I just spend less on paid? And in this case, we might say, if budget's shrinking, let's go take a look. Organic is pound for pound 100 times the value of cost per conversion, but paid drives you the majority of your conversions because what you spend.
Yeah.
So we need to keep paid turned on.
Yeah.
But what if we could work more towards organic to
Correct.
drive future conversions? And we're talking to another one of our large brands about this, which is What if that long-term play is their CMO saying, what if I could turn off paid completely?
Yeah.
But they can't because they need the leads.
Right.
If they're getting 500 leads a month right now, you can't just turn them off because the sales team needs the leads.
Right.
But my question was, what if a great North Star goal would be to replace the need for paid with organic in the next 2 years? Because for their brand, they have a lot of window shoppers, or people will search and come to it, and then and they'll search and come to it, and then they waste money because they waste all these paid clicks. So I was like, what if you could just do organic, rank for those same keywords via organic, and then every click doesn't matter because it's a fixed cost to rank organically.
Correct.
So it's just as a couple examples of showing if budget gets tighter, sometimes you have to, instead of just saying we'll cut some paid spend, sometimes the better thing to do instead is to say what actually drives me the highest value conversions for the cheapest rate, and reinvest in that versus just I'm going to cut all my paid spend 10% across the board.
Right.
That actually might have a lower impact.
It might. Yeah, no, that's the data that I was talking about, is understand it. And when we do that, right, we understand those stories, and then we make the right recommendations. Because listen, if the pressure's on them with a cut budget, the pressure's on us to deliver on less of a budget. So so that understanding that data deeper is really important because it allows us to make the right recommendations, because the pressure is just as much on us as it is on them. And so both of your examples, I think, ring true with what we were talking about.
Another question on this is I think there are some agencies that really thrive when budgets are tight. Yeah. And there's some agencies that thrive only when budgets are abundant. Put it that way, right?
Right.
They're great at just spilling the money, right?
Yeah.
Just spend. But they're not very good at being efficient.
Yeah.
Do you think for some of the marketers listening today, if we really do go into a correction or recession, should they consider switching agencies? And if so, why? What do you look for in an agency during a recession?
Yeah, I think you should go with the specialists. If you're going to double down, go with the people who are really good, right? The agencies that are good when the budgets are big and can spend everywhere. Well, if you spend everywhere, you're going to hit some home runs. You're going to get some singles. You're going to win.
Totally.
But if you go with the experts, they're going to drive you in the right path, in the right channels, and they're probably going to deliver really good results because they're really good at what they do. So if you focus on search and you go with a really good agency that's good at organic and paid, they're going to drive there. You're going to win there, and you're going to maximize your dollars. So I actually think that one of the decisions that we made to tighten what we do and be really good at and understanding the algorithms for a few things and the strategies and the technologies and a few things makes a lot of sense. And I think it helps our customers, because if their budgets are tight and they go with us, they're getting the best of, low funnel, a few things, rather than having to win across 7.
And do you find, which that's a great answer, by the way, I think it's a really smart thing, when budgets are tight, go with specialists, not generalists, because you're likely to get the best result in each channel.
Correct.
What are your thoughts, though, with now you have an in-house marketer who's managing 6 agencies?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So versus one, back to pat or throat to choke, however you like to say that analogy, right? Now it's 6, and now it, spreading out all of the, responsibility. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that if from what we've seen is if that marketer is getting great service and great results from the absolute specialist, so the agency that just totally does CRO all day long, it's all they do, their experience with them is going to be really good, and it's going to be okay that they have to do 6 calls, because every call is really good and every interaction is really good, and the data is good and the results is good and the strategy is good and the technology is good and the thinking is good. That's a much better experience from what we found than going with one. Well, they do 2 really good, but 4 meetings that I do with them are absolutely terrible, and I feel like I'm wasting all my money. What we found is, yes, it's a little more to manage, but every experience is really good. And so what we play in that, we deliver, and then so they're coming in a good mood because they just dealt with an expert who delivered a good experience. They leave because we are an expert in what we do, so we delivered a good experience, and they go on to the next one. So we actually think it's okay, because what we're finding is people want expertise, they want good strategy, they want good data, and they want to know that they're talking to somebody who can answer their question in the moment. They don't have to call timeout, go look for the answer, come back. They can do it because they live it, they breathe it, they eat it, they sleep it, they drink it, and so it's all the time. And so every interaction, they're getting the best. They're getting the best answer, the best data from an expert who's done it 10 plus years, who knows the space. So they don't have to call timeout and they don't have to wait. They get it right there. That seems to be really working for our clients and giving a really good experience.
So if I had to summarize as I'm listening, which I think this is really good advice, if your budget is cut or flat from where it was last year, and you're right, because everybody wishes they had more budget to do more things.
Yeah.
Right. Marketing budgets could always be bigger. But if your budget's cut or flat, the kind of in order, what you'd recommend is very first, cut the lowest traffic source.
Yep.
The lowest performing channel, cut that and add attribution, right? So for us, we use Attribution app,
Yep.
but add an attribution tracker that does multi-channel attribution.
Correct.
Right? And one like the one we use that allows you to track offline media as well.
Correct.
Spend the money to track attribution, because if you do not track attribution, you cannot be as efficient with marketing dollars as you can if you track.
Correct.
Then number two, what you recommended is to pay for attribution. Now you cut that bottom provider.
Yep.
Then you use attribution to start looking at what are my cost per acquisition, what are my conversion channels. Work backwards from conversion, not just traffic, not just impression share, right? Or just impressions. Or I'm getting 800 million impressions from this TV campaign. Great. How many conversions are we getting? We don't know. Yeah. Okay, but this paid ads campaign or this SEO campaign, I know I'm getting 1,500 conversions or 1,000 conversions, and it costs me this. You should invest more there first because you know what you're getting.
Correct.
Right? Then you said the third thing was, in order to accomplish this, you may have right now an agency that's a generalist who's kind of doing everything.
Yep.
But in recession times or tight times, you need specialists.
Correct.
Because the deep specialists can get the best results with the fewest dollars.
Correct. In the quickest amount of time.
Less
Meetings, less back and forth. We can get right to it.
And I would even riff off that too, because I feel that while there's nothing wrong with AORs, and we partner with them, we love AORs.
Yeah.
They're great partners. If times get tight, you're probably more likely, if you go to use 3 or 4 or 5 specialists, specialist firms are usually a little bit smaller.
Yep.
Just in terms of size, and so they're usually a little more cost effective.
Yep.
And they're probably more flexible with budget to work with you.
Correct.
On a little bit lower level. Where I know a lot of AORs are, they're very enterprise. They're large campaigns.
Yep.
So if you can't spend $1 million, $2, $3 million with a relationship, it doesn't make sense for their model, right? Because of account directors and all the stuff that goes into it. Whereas in a specialist firm, you can bring in an SEO firm or a TikTok agency for a few $1,000s a month.
Correct.
That you could not get that kind of service added to your AOR relationship.
Correct.
Or it's not going to be good, or it's not going to be cheap enough.
It's not going to be affordable enough, and it's not going to be as specialized or as expert as it needs to be.
Right.
One of the things that I think we've seen is because of the specialization and the size, to your point, everybody you talk to knows what they're talking about.
Right.
So you're getting the expert conversations with the experts all the time. So you leave smarter all the time. That's way more valuable. And because a smaller agency has to hire experts, they don't have the ability to hire generalists or a lot of extra people. Those are the people that are doing the work. So the work gets done faster,
right?
And it gets done right, and then the results happen faster. So you're getting a better experience, you're getting smarter, you're getting better data, and then you're getting the result faster because you're talking to the person who's doing the work, and the work gets done.
Love it.
Hopefully, I don't know, that might have sounded too simple, but that's generally how it works.
I mean, the simpler the better. The simpler the thing, the easier it is to remember.
And that's what we're seeing, with customers. It's like, I might have 6, but I know exactly what I'm talking about when I talk to these guys.
Right.
And this is going to get done, and this will be the outcome. And then I move on. And it seems to work really good for both parties.
So, Andrew, this has been great. We're out of time.
Awesome.
If people want to have deeper conversations, or there's marketers listening who say, hey, I want to run some specific ideas by you, that are, maybe take it offline. Maybe it's, hey, I have this and this and this. What do you think here? Because, you've got 15 years of experience in this space. How can they reach out to you if they have questions?
So they can email me at andrew.squibb@heliumseo.com, or they can call me if you want my cell phone number.
We'll link it all in the description below.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, thanks for listening. This has been the It's All Just Marketing podcast. We'll see you guys on the next one.